Are these really the worst games in our collection? What's up, Brew Crew? Welcome back to Beer City Board Games. I'm Clay, and today I'm taking some inspiration from my friends Evan and Grayson over on their channel, Evan Diesel. They recently did a list of the lowest rated games in their collection, which I thought was a really interesting topic, so naturally I decided to steal it. But I'm going to be putting a link to their video in the comments, and I highly recommend going to check it out. As usual, I have some caveats and disclaimers here. First off, these are the lowest rated games that I own and have played according to Board Game Geek. And I actually like most of these games. We try to be good about culling games that we don't like out of our collection, so even when you're looking at the bottom ranked games, they still tend to be ones that we have fun playing. I also excluded kids games, because I don't feel like they really get a fair shake when it comes to BGG rankings. And I also included only games that had at least 100 ratings on Board Game Geek. We do have a few newer games that do not have very many ratings yet, but I think as they start to get into people's hands, they're going to start getting more ratings, and they're going to start climbing up the ranks pretty quickly. Okay, let's get started. Number 6 is Age of Dirt, designed by Johannes Krenner and published by WizKids. This game is ranked 6,413 overall on Board Game Geek and has a geek rating of 5.668. Age of Dirt is a very cute, very quick worker placement game where you're going to be sending out the members of your Stone Age tribe to collect resources needed to fulfill recipe cards for points. You can either throw one of your workers into a little box that represents the different areas where they can go to gather resources, or you can call back your workers by lifting up one of the boxes, and if one of your pieces is under there, you claim a reward. And then you're going to take all the player pieces that were in that box, yours and all the other players, and you're going to throw them into a cube tower. Any worker that falls out of the tower will be able to bring some resources back to the camp. If none of your pieces fell out, you can use your drum to call them home, which basically means you get to take a little cardboard drumstick and tap on the cube tower to try to make one of your pieces fall out. It's not a particularly deep strategic game, and I could see where some folks may not like the randomness of the cube tower, but I think this is a super fun little game. In fact, we own this one, but it's the only one that I don't have here because it's been kind of permanently on loan for several months now with some friends who really love it. Next up, number 5 is Bees, which is designed by Marcus Ross and Kara Ryan, and published by Action Phase Games. It's rated number 7,106 overall and has a geek rating of 5.639. This is a super frantic, fast-paced game that we have a lot of fun playing with our kids. Everyone is simultaneously and continuously rolling their dice trying to complete number recipes on flower tiles, either on a stack of tiles in front of you or one of the tiles for either of your neighbors. Once all of the dice spots on a tile are filled, the player with the most dice on that tile gets to flip it to its honeycomb side and place it in their hive. There are 5 different colors of flowers, and for each tile edge with matching colors in your hive, you'll score a point at the end of the game. There are also wildflower tiles that can only be won by competing in a beeline race. If the next tile in your stack is a wildflower tile, you'll shout beeline, and you and your neighbors will start trying to roll your dice to complete a numerical sequence from 1 to 5. You can place multiple numbers in a single roll, but the sequence needs to be completed in order, and the first person to do so wins the flower tile, which can count as any color flower for the purposes of scoring at the end of the game. I'm not normally a big fan of these do something as fast as you can type of games, but we do tend to have a lot of fun with this one. It's not one that hits the table very frequently, but we usually have a lot of laughs when it does hit the table. Okay, number 4 is Public Market, designed by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz. It's rated 7,942 overall and has a geek rating of 5.614. Now, this is a game that I know Jen especially likes. It's a really cool polyomino tile laying game where you're going to be moving your fishing boat around and trying to catch different shaped fish tiles that you need to be able to pack your coolers and bring them back to the market to complete orders and earn points. There's also a little bit of set collection, and the turn order is determined by bidding, which is something that I really tend to like. Honestly, to me, a lot of these polyomino games tend to feel the same, and I'm not usually a big fan of them. I think Public Market is one of, if not my favorite, because it feels so different. There are quite a few things going on in the game, and not all of them are super intuitive, which I'm sure hasn't helped. I feel like this game got a fair bit of praise when it was first released, but it dropped off pretty rapidly, which isn't uncommon nowadays with the thousands of new games that come out each year. But I'd say that if you haven't had a chance to try Public Market yet, it's worth having a go. Then at number 3, we have Tourin Market, which is designed and published by Jordan Draper and Jordan Draper Games. It's currently sitting at 10,664 overall and has a geek rating of 5.565. This game does technically belong on this list because I do own it and I have played it, but it'll be a little difficult for me to talk about because it's been a very long time since I've played it. It comes in a very small box and is basically just a small deck of cards and a few tokens. But I do remember it being a very fun, very interesting auction game where you're going to choose a card from your hand, all of which have 3 of one type of good, 2 of another, and 1 of a third. The card will go into the center of the table and be simultaneously revealed, and then everyone will secretly choose an amount to bid and reveal, with the highest bidder taking their first choice of cards, then the second and third, and so on. Each different type of good has a specific value, and at the end of the game, the player with the most of each type of good will earn its value. It's a super clever, small box game that I really remember loving when we played it, and for some reason, it just hasn't hit the table again for quite a long time. I guess maybe I should fix that. Number 2 on my list of my lowest rated games is Virtual Revolution, designed by Guy Roger Duvert and published by Studio H. It's ranked 10,790 overall and has a geek rating of 5.564, so very close to Tourin Market. I told you all last year not to sleep on it, and here you are sleeping on it. Here's the thing, this game shares a lot in common with one of my favorite games, Discworld Ankh-Morpork. And while I understand wanting to track down that version because you love the theme, it can be pretty difficult to justify the hefty price that people are asking for it. Even the newer version, Nanti-Narking, is pretty pricey when compared to Virtual Revolution. And I would say that even though the gameplay isn't quite as crisp and elegant as it is in Discworld, it does have a very similar feel in terms of the area control aspect especially. Plus, I think the theme of it is pretty cool. It's actually based on a French film by the same name, whose writer and director also designed this game. It's a futuristic cyberpunk type setting where the general population spends most of its days plugged into virtual reality worlds, and you play as a corporation selling those virtual experiences. It has a bit more going on gameplay-wise compared to Discworld, and definitely feels like a much tighter, more challenging game. It's definitely not a one-to-one experience, but I think if you enjoyed Discworld Ankh-Morpork, that Virtual Revolution is worth a try. It's a very good game, and even though it's similar to another game, it does enough of its own cool things that I'll continue to own and enjoy both. And finally, the lowest ranked game that I own and have played is Pass, which is a game that we here at Beer City Board Games have been championing a lot lately. Pass is designed by Yu Wang and published by Board Game Rookie out of Asia. I believe the original game came out of Taiwan. Now, this one is ranked 11,510 overall and has a geek rating of 5.555. And honestly, I'm not that surprised that this one is my lowest rated game according to BGG because it is still fairly new. It was released in 2023. And I don't think it's seen much worldwide distribution yet. But it does have over 100 ratings, so it does make this list. This game has gone over really well with everyone that we've shown it to so far. It actually has some similarities to Scout from Oink Games in that it's a ladder climbing game with double-sided cards. In Pass, though, you're going to be playing poker hands. When someone lays down a poker hand, everyone else around the table has to lay down the same type of poker hand. So if a pair is played, the next player has to play a higher pair than the person before them. If a full house is played, then a higher full house needs to be played, and so on until one person has laid down their last card or cards. Now this is difficult to do to begin with, but also you need to think ahead about what you're laying down, because that can really impact the cards that you'll have available to play later. But if you're ever not able to beat a player's hand, then you can pass and take a pass token. Now, these pass tokens can be spent on future turns to flip one of your cards to the other side, giving you some flexibility in the hands that you'll be able to play. You can also play a pass token down on a hand of cards that matches the previous player to say that, for example, my pair of nines now beats your pair of nines. The rules are really simple, but there's a lot to think about in this little card game, and it's a great one for social situations. We have really been loving this game since we started playing it at Gen Con this year, and I'm really hoping that it's going to see a wider distribution at some point, because I would not be surprised at all to see this one climb up the ranks once people are able to play it. All right, there you have it. Those are my worst ranked games in my collection according to Board Game Geek, but obviously not the worst games in my collection according to me. I apologize for the somewhat clickbaity, negative-sounding title, but I tried to keep it pretty positive overall, and I just really thought that this was an interesting idea for a list, and I was generally curious what my lowest ranked games were. So thanks again to Evan and Grayson for the idea, and again, you can find a link to their video in the comments below. Now I want to know if you've played any of these games. Do you think they deserve to be higher or lower? Let me know. I'm really interested in hearing what you all think. And until next time, let's get another round for the table.